Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to Wonder Series Wednesday. I'm Denise Stiegel. I am your host here of the Wonder Series, sponsored by Living Healthy List. So we're here to help you look outside the box or think outside the box, to look at your life from a different perspective and to open your mind to the possibilities that are out there so you can jump on those opportunities that come your way with confidence and really knowing that this is what you're supposed to do. So if you opened your mind to these opportunities and these possibilities, who would you be? What would you do? What would you create? But even more importantly, ultimately, how would that help you live that healthy, happy lifestyle that you have been searching for in order to flourish in life? So I'm really excited to talk to my friend Daphne today. My guest is Daphne Wells. She helps soul-led visionary leaders feel safe, solid, and secure to share their magic with the world and make more money with ease and flow, i.e. to flourish. As a professionally certified and credentialed numerologist, I'm really excited about this, and intuitive success coach, Daphne delivers insanely powerful insights that give you radical permission to show up in your power and fulfill your purpose in the world, i.e., again, everyone to flourish in life. And so I'm really excited. Daphne, welcome to the Wonder Series.
Thank you so much for having me, Denise. I'm thrilled to be here.
Oh, this is going to be so fun. So Daphne and I have had a couple of conversations prior to this podcast, and we just connect so well, and this is going to be a lot of fun. So I'd like to start with our conversation today a little bit about your background. A numerologist. I know what that is, but I don't know if everybody else knows what that is. And then, so talk us a little bit about that, and then we'll get into you as a success coach.
Okay, so as a child, I used to hear messages and know things and feel things. And when I shared them with people, I was shut down. And so I know that as a child, I was really intuitive, and yet that was shut down. And I didn't have the confidence to believe what I was hearing. And when I found numerology, it gave me like that safe container to play with my intuition in, because numerology is based on your date of birth. So from your actual date of birth, we don't need the time, we don't need to know where, we don't need anything other than the month, the day, and the year. And we can learn so much about you. There are layers upon layers upon layers upon layers of energy that the universe, source, spirit, God, whatever you term that, however that is for you, sends for you to help you with your purpose in life. When you know what that is, it gives you that radical permission to show up as you and flourish, as Denise would say.
Wow. And so with numerology, is this something that you do once and kind of get it, or is it something that changes, like the daily astrology that changes every day? Is numerology similar to that, or does it really, this is who you are?
So there is an element that this is who you are. There's what I call your birth code. That is one level, one layer that is based on your date of birth. And then there are other layers that change, like the weather forecast changes, the weather changes. You know how different days feel different?
Absolutely.
The energy feels different. And so the universe sends universal energy. So there's that universal energy that comes that we can forecast. And we all experience that. But we experience that through the filter of our personal energy bubble that changes each day as well. So energy goes in waves and cycles, as we know from other facets of science and energy work. And so we have these cycles of energy that go through our life. Some are 7 years, some are 13 years, some are, they change, some are 9 years, and they change. And so as these all interrelate and overplay each other, we have opportunity to learn lessons, to grow and evolve as human beings, and then to share our gifts with the world. So numerology can tell us what our gifts are, It can tell us how we're going to handle challenges in life, because energy exists in a like a pendulum swing. Okay. We can be anywhere along that pendulum swing where we choose to be. So numerology will calculate what's possible for you, and you get to choose how you show up in it.
I love what you just said, that you get to choose how you show up, because this seems to be a theme in the last couple of conversations that we've had on the Wonder series, is that choice always plays a role.
Yes, we have choice in every moment of life, right? And so we do get to choose whether we are in the flow of the energy that's available for us, or whether we're in the mud, and how deep that mud is.
Mm-hmm. I always call that when we're stuck in the muck.
Yeah. We all have our own terminology for it, right? Same thing. People talk about it as the high and the low side of energy. I don't like that because it sounds judgmental. Personally, for me, I like, going with the flow of the energy, or are you stuck in the muck, stuck in the mud, and you get to choose.
I love that. Okay, so now I'm really excited and interested to talk offline about numerology, because like I said, I knew what it was on that main level, on that first level, where you give them your date of birth and you get some some message or some information. So that's really
and that is so to answer your question, is it something we do one-off or ongoing? It's up to people to choose. Oftentimes people will come for that one-off reading. This is who I am. What that does is really boost your confidence. That's who I am. Like for me, it was like, oh, I really have strong intuition. No one can shut that down anymore, right? I'm not going to believe anyone who tries to tell me that what I've heard or sensed is crazy, which is what I was told as a child, right? I'm just not going to accept that anymore.
Sure.
And so it gives you that radical permission to be you, which is women to flourish. Like as women, we are conditioned. As men, we are as well. So if you picture a baby, they come into the world perfect. They are perfect in their birth code and who they are here to be. And then they're changed and molded by society. Not intentionally, just,
right. Parental beliefs, it depends, where you grow up, what your parents believe, there's so many pieces to that.
Societal expectations. And, with human development research, they know that in the first 7 years, particularly, children are sponges. Whatever they're told, whatever they feel, they believe. And so that disguises who you really are. And there comes a point in adulthood somewhere, and often it's around that sort of mid-30s, sometimes through to 60s, where a lot of those cycles I talked about before kind of change and converge. And there comes this point where we're like, well, who am I? Why am I here? We've learned so much in life, and now there's this, what's next? Who am I? Particularly for women, when we've gone, a lot of us will have been married, had children will perhaps have left home or be more independent. So who am I now? Right. Now that I don't have all of this expectation on me, I get to choose.
What I have noticed in my life is every 10 years, and maybe this is that cycle thing, every 10 years or so, I'm different. Not literally to my core. I am the same person, but either I've learned something, I've accepted something, or decided that I won't accept something anymore. And so it's interesting that a lot of women, like between in their 30s to their 60s, I find that every 10 years, I kind of find myself in that place where I'm going, okay, who am I and what am I here to do? And I start to question that. And so it's interesting with numerology, how, when you mentioned about those cycles. And so I wonder, for me, if, whatever those cycles are, if I tend to be in a 10-year cycle.
Well, there isn't a 10-year cycle in numerology. There is 7, 9, 13-year cycles. But sometimes so energy happens in waves and bell curves. So the points where one cycle stops and one starts are not finite. They kind of overlay. One bell curve will be going up while another one's coming down. So you may notice it in roughly 10 years, right? If we calculated it, it would be slightly different.
Right. Probably more closer to that. Interesting.
And yet there is that sense of, as we grow and evolve through life journey, we do need to re-question who we are. And as our energy changes that we talked about before, who am I? What have I learned? And our birthdays are a big one for that. It really is. Well, our energy changes quite significantly on our birthday each year around that time. So what am I here to do this year? And that's where people coming back for more frequent numerology readings allows them to really lean into that and take advantage of the energy that's coming for them, not in a selfish way, but in a, hey, this is here to help me. Let's lean into it and make the ride easier.
I love it. And this will tie in later, because we're going to talk a little bit about overwhelm and priorities. And I see where this ties in. Tell us a little bit about Daphne, the intuitive success coach. What does that mean? How do you work with your clients?
So we want to be successful. At our heart, we want to know that we've made a difference in the world, that we've created something, which is kind of like our definition of success is different for each of us, right? Intuitive, intuition comes so much into my work nowadays. So I am a trained life coach. I'm a business coach. If you're a business and entrepreneur, your business will only grow as much as you do, is one of my core beliefs. So oftentimes, most of the time when I'm coaching people, they want to grow their business. And a lot of the work we do is on them personally.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
So I work with people one-on-one, and I also work in what I call inner circles, so small groups. 8 is maximum in any of those groups where we really spend time together, and then you have like your fellow, you've got your mates really who have your back no matter what. So it's really creating those little tight circles of support for women, which we need in today's world.
We really do. And I think the last 2 years, we've realized that more and more, because when all of a sudden that was gone, and I think a lot of people turned to the internet, and we've had lots of Zoom conversations and lots of Zoom meetings. But it's having those, those tight circles of people who, no matter what's going on in your life, that they're there to support you.
Yes. Yeah. And yes, we do meet on Zoom for those meetings, right? Because then I gather women who are really aligned with each other for each of those circles. Like, you can't just go and buy entry to that. You need to have a conversation with me and check that we're all aligned for you to be part of that circle. Because it's really important. And then it actually doesn't matter where you are in the world. They will have your back. They will be here for you.
I think as women, people, when I worked in the corporate world, people always say, oh, women are horrible to work with. It's hard to work for a woman, woman or this, woman or this. And of course, they're talking to me, who's a woman. And I could see it at times, but I have found in my life, and maybe I've been very, very, very lucky, that other women have been very supportive of me. And what, my ideas and the things that I've wanted to. I've been very, very fortunate to have had, people in my life, and people come into my life like you, Daphne, to come into my life and really be, another one of those people who lift me up, and I hope lift you up and them up as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like we attract, law of attraction says we attract what we want, really, and what we are. We attract who we are, right? So we attract like-minded, like-hearted people. And so if we are in that, in the other side of womanhood that you were alluding to in the corporate world, if we are that kind of woman, that's what we're going to attract.
Yeah.
And again, it comes down to choice.
I love it. I think that's our theme. Choice is our theme for, I think, the month. It's so true, because so often people, feel, it's their circumstances. Oh, I can't, this is just how it is, you don't understand, you're in a different place. But I agree, no matter what the circumstances, you have a choice of the way you think of something, your mindset towards something, and choice. It really does boil down to that. And so, ladies, you have a choice.
Situations are situations. We choose how we respond to them.
Very true.
And yet, as women, like we were talking about before, we were kind of conditioned to not believe that we have the right to choose. I know I was being, when I was younger. And I mean, that's why I wrote my book, Decide, Choose Your Own Path, because it really goes through that whole, how do you decide? And you need to know who you are. You need to know what's important to you and know that you are making choices that are right for you and not right for other people.
Right. And as women, we really do tend to make sure everybody else is okay first before us, which of course rolls into this feeling of overwhelm that so many women feel. And yes, I know there are men out there too, guys. I'm not excluding you. Men feel it too, but I think obviously I speak to a lot more women, and I see it in the people that I know is they're just overwhelmed by so much. And knowing that you can make a choice when it comes to that, I think is liberating. So let's talk about overwhelm. What is it? Why are we feeling it? What are things that we can do to accept and move on from overwhelm?
So there is a lot of demands being placed on us by society, right? We're inundated with so much stuff, and that comes with overwhelm, right? And yet when we really know who we are, and we know our values, what's important to us, and we know what we want from life, we know what our purpose is, which again, numerology can help us work out with certainty. And we can then filter out, well, what really is important? Am I doing this because other people expect me to? Or am I doing this because it's aligned for me? Because my belief is that, my opinion is that when we are feeling overwhelmed, we are doing stuff that isn't aligned for us. It doesn't fit who we are. And when we know our priorities, when we know what's important to us, we can then choose what stays and what goes. We can put boundaries in place. And one thing I work with women with, most of the women who I start off working with, we will do a time audit. So we'll actually take notes for a few days of everything they do, because they are overwhelmed. And yes, that adds to their overwhelm for a few days. However, the information that we glean from that is well worth it, because then we can work out, well, where is your time going? Is it going to your priorities, or is it going to stuff that's not actually even important?
It's interesting that you say that. I had a job years ago. I just said that like it was like so long ago. But when I was way back, before, when we just had black and white TV, when I was working in the corporate world, I was working at a hotel. My background is hotel restaurant business management. So I was actually working at a restaurant, and I was catering in the catering sales department. My manager, my boss, who was the catering, I guess the director of catering, she went on a maternity leave. And so her job kind of fell onto my desk, but I was getting paid to do my job, but then I was expected to do her job too. And it was a small hotel that I was working at. So it, to most of the people that were there, they thought, it'll be fine. It's not that much work, but I was essentially doing two jobs. And so after doing this for a few weeks, I went into my manager and said, I'm really struggling with, doing all this stuff. I can handle it. I said, but I don't think it's fair that I'm doing both of these jobs, and getting paid for the lesser position. And my manager, my boss, so she was the director of the department. She said to me, well, Denise, I don't know what it is you do all day. Okay. And she asked me to do this time audit. And like you said, for those few days, I did it for a week. It did add to the stress and the overwhelm. But when as I was writing down, like as I literally walked around with the notebook, when I was doing things and all of the things that I was doing and, the time it took to do things, it was eye-opening, like how many things that I was doing that weren't my job or the other person's job, but was just expected because that's how it had always been done. And, there wasn't a person in that position anymore. So it was incredibly insightful. I was a bit resentful, I have to admit, at the time, because it was just one more thing.
Yeah.
But it turned out to be one of the best things that I could have done for my career, because my boss basically said to me, she's like, when I brought it into her, and she said, I had no idea. And I said to her, to be honest, I didn't either. And that changed the whole trajectory of my career, because I did that and I realized how much more I was doing, and where I think this was the important piece, where I should have been delegating to other people.
Yeah, where we need to delegate, where we need to just say, this is not mine. You need to take responsibility for this, like where we need to have boundaries. And when clients do that, of course, it does, they then can get clear on what's important of all of those things, which you would have done with that time audit too. When you listed out all of the things and the time you were spending on them, well, what's actually important, Right. And of course, in a corporate role like that, you don't get to choose what's important. When you're an entrepreneur or a mom, and all those other facets of life where we have more choices over how we spend our time, we do get to decide that.
You get to decide. See, there's that word again, everyone. We get to choose and you get to decide. And this is, and again, this is, Daphne mentioned this a minute ago. It is the name of her book. It's called Decide.
Because you know what?
Choose your own path.
If you don't choose and decide, you have decided by default. You've allowed somebody else to decide for you. And that's something that a lot of people don't understand.
I agree. I've said that when it comes to in my role as a health coach in the past, is, you can decide to do this or not, but, whether you move forward and do something positive or just stay doing the same thing, you've made a decision. And how many women would say to me, well, I just don't know, and would come back to me a year later in the same predicament and finally go, okay, I get it. It's all about, again, it's about choice, and, knowing what your priorities are helps you to, I love it how this all works. You need to make your, knowing your priorities, what they are, you make your choice in saying yes or no to whatever it might be, which gets rid of our overwhelm.
Yes. Yeah. Because when you know your three things that you absolutely have to do today, regardless of anything else, everything else falls into place.
That's a good point. There's the book, The One Thing. And I would agree with you. For me, I always think it's three things. Like if I can get three things done in a day, it's been a real productive, successful day. Whether that's in my business or, just in my role as, Mrs. Dr. Stiegel, because that's a separate role. I have a very big role to play in my husband's life. somebody has to take care of the things that he can't while he's working. We have a house, like I said earlier, I mentioned to you, we have workers here at the house.
Yeah.
So I chose this morning, I had a meeting that I went to this morning. So I chose to kind of change my schedule around. I usually do my workouts in the morning. I will do my workout this afternoon because it's important to me and I know what my priorities are. And that's one of those priorities.
And you changed that for a meeting to save your husband doing it this morning because, yeah. And that is right. Like we don't just go to work. We don't just have a business. We have all these other roles in life. So part of that process of, doing a time audit and then what are we analyzing that is, well, how much time do you actually have to spend on your business?
Mm-hmm.
What is important? How much time does your family need? How much time do you need for your self-care? Because that's really important too.
Mm-hmm.
As you said earlier, that's a chunk of time. I know for me that is around 3 hours every morning.
Yep.
Really important. Like it's going to happen no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
And that's vital. That's how I take care of me. And like you, I like to do it in the morning because then it sets me up for the day. And
yeah, absolutely. Yep. I'm going to say it sets me up for the day. And to be quite honest, and I don't have to deal with this big mop of hair on my head. I do it once in the morning and it's done. I know, ladies, working out and dealing with your hair is a challenge, but it's a priority. So you got to get your workouts done.
Yeah.
And then you futz around with your hair.
Workouts are priority for you. For some people, they're not, right? It is a matter of what is important to you.
It is very true. And I think, one of the things you had mentioned here on kind of on a form that I'd asked you to fill out is loving you is the most important job. And what we're talking about that without actually saying those words.
Yeah, we are. That was a huge realization for me a few years ago when I realized that was actually my main role in life. And I realized that I had spent my life doing what abusive men told me to do, caring for children, doing what a boss wanted me to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
There was no me in my life. And, loving yourself is not selfish. It's actually selfless, because if you don't love yourself, you don't trust yourself, and then you don't have confidence.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine what that does to us as women. So when you love yourself and then you trust yourself, which you do, trust and confidence we build with evidence, and they go hand in hand. So I kept this promise to myself. I did my workout this morning. I can trust myself to love myself and keep my promises to myself. And that's like another stone on your confidence pile.
I love it.
And that kind of stack them hand in hand, right?
You want to have more stones on that side than the other.
Well, not if you I kept this promise, I can now be confident. They kind of grow together.
There you go. That's true. They balance each other out.
They're almost like the same pile, right?
I'm following.
Because if you stop trusting yourself, your confidence is gone.
That's true.
Or you've diminished it. When you break a promise to yourself, you actually diminish your confidence.
And it's interesting because we focus sometimes so much just solely on self-confidence, but it's quite evident that that's only a piece of it. Like that's kind of
like the outer layer. That's the layer that we exude to people. That's the layer that, I feel confident when I can show up without feeling scared to show up. Right? When I can go talk to that person who, for some reason, I might be a little bit timid about speaking to. That's the outward piece. It's the loving yourself and the trusting yourself. That's the foundation that your confidence is built on.
I love it. It's so, and again, what did it boil down to? It was, trusting yourself, making yourself a priority, loving yourself. It's all choice. Comes back to choice.
Comes back to choice. Every moment in life is a choice.
Mm-hmm. So for our listeners, what's the first thing that somebody's listening? They're like, okay, this is all great information. I want to up-level my life. I want to feel better. I want to live better. I want to love myself. What it would be a first step for someone?
A first step. So if we go right back to an initial step in loving yourself, which for us as women can be really, really, really hard. Whenever you pass a mirror or a window that you can see yourself in, or even your computer screen when you open it and it's black, look yourself in the eye, say, I love you. Look yourself right in the eye, because then you're speaking to your soul. And the more that you do that, the more you really tell yourself that you love you, and yet you are also making yourself a priority. You're taking that couple of seconds to actually focus on you.
And how simple.
And yet how not easy.
Yes, I agree. How often do we say that to ourselves?
Because we as women have been told that we have to look like this, that, and the other to be valuable as a woman. And that is so not true. We wander around in this skin car, and yet that's not who we are.
Mm-hmm. It's true. It's that mask that we all that we wear. And I think it's the mask is, like you said, all of these things that we've heard from, our peers, our parents, our society, so often we walk around with a mask on. Mm-hmm. And once we feel confident in ourselves to actually show who we are. I mean, this is who I am. I mean, I always say this, this is who I am, the full kit and caboodle. I wear my heart on my sleeve. I'm the same. I'm the same person with everyone. I treat people the way I want to be treated, because there was a time in my life that I wasn't treated well. And I look back and I wonder, well, was it me? Was I allowing it? Or was it just something, was it a bad relationship? I don't know. But I realized at some point that if I wanted people to treat me in a certain way, I had to make sure I was treating everybody the way I wanted to be treated, not just the people I liked, but everybody.
Such a great philosophy. I live by that one too.
Yeah.
Treat others as you want to be treated. Yeah, because like you, I wasn't treated well for many years of my life. And I allowed that to happen on some level for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. And I believe that I allowed it to happen so that I now can help women in the way that I do. It's one of the pieces that I bring to the table, that experience.
Yep, absolutely. Every experience we have in life they make us who we are. Mm. And
we have a choice whether we use those for good to help others, or mm-hmm. whether we stay in, oh, poor me, I've been treated badly, right. And stay in that victim mode. Mm-hmm. That comes down to choice again, right?
Exactly. I love it. Daphne, tell us where our audience can, one, find your book and also connect with you.
Okay, so my book, if you go to my website, daphnewells.com, there's a page on there along the header that says book.
Easy enough, it says book.
I know, and the reason that says that is because, so I'm in New Zealand, where buying books from Amazon is not as easy as where you are, so that page will lead you to the retailer of your choice.
Oh, wonderful.
Depending on where you live, right? So how can people get hold of me? Through that website. The other thing I'd like to offer any listeners, if they would like to pop on a free call with me to take that first step and, overcoming overwhelm and figuring out your priorities, they can pop over to speakwithdaphne.com and book a call there.
Wonderful. I recommend everyone, if you're listening and you're listening to the replay and you're reading through the show notes. Make sure you connect with Daphne. You will just love your life. You know, life will be very different because you will be the priority. So the choice is yours. Give Daphne a call. Daphne, thank you so much for being with us today and sharing your insight, your wisdom. It's a true pleasure, and I'm so really grateful to have you now in my circle of friends.
Thank you, Denise. I'm glad to be part of your circle of friends and to have you in my circle of friends. This has been such fun.
It has been. Thank you. For everyone, we will see you again next Wednesday, 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. That is when we always go live or always drop a new podcast. Until next week, I leave you with this. Have a great week, everyone. Healthy living for a happy life.